What's the smallest amount of power you've ever seen go to someone's head? Story 1, I used to work at a grocery store. There was a cashier that was promoted to an office lead, and within 5 minutes started calling people up to his office to chew them out about bullshit non-issues. Then within 30 minutes started telling all the other cashiers that they were all scanning and bagging too slow. Then within an hour told all the baggers they needed to bag faster and make sure that the number of carts in the store which they were responsible for taking back and needed to never drop down under a ridiculous amount. On his first day, the store manager saw him causing strife and off every single employee he talked with, and took his promotion away and told him to get back on a register. Everyone gave him about it for the entire rest of the time I was there, which was at least a year. Story 2, a graduate of a culinary school got a job at the nursing home I worked at. Attempted to be the next Gordon Ramsay without the sexy accent. Eventually got fired for verbally abusing the waitstaff and having tantrums in the kitchen that were overheard by the elderly residents with hearing problems. That's just sad. She thought she wouldn't get fired. I reported her along with 5 residents. Story 3, there was a guy on Tribal Wars. He had a tribe with 3 members and always talked to them like he was a president or something. He even made serious plans on what to do if the tribes around them attacked. He sent diplomatic messages with his signature, and he wanted to be called king by the 3 poor souls in the tribe. It was me, and I still cringe. Story 4, small town zoning boards. Honestly, with a county population of 6,000, we really don't need a board that meets monthly. I needed one little stamp approval and had to wait till they opened up the floor at the end of the meeting. For an hour, I had to listen to these guys discuss visual barriers on a commercial AC unit. They also spent half an hour discussing a concrete median versus the concrete triangular thing to prevent left turns into a parking lot. It seems someone thinks too many cars are holding up traffic trying to turn left. The guys were idiots. Our town only has 2 stoplights which only blink red. I have never seen anything resembling a traffic jam outside of one street closure due to a house fire. Story 5, used to work at a seafood store. We had hired a new kid, and one of the guys was showing him how to skin a salmon fillet. Next day, we're working together. Lady orders salmon, asked me to skin it. I was taught how to skin salmon way before he started working there. I grabbed the fillet knife, and as I'm about to make the cut, the kid walks over, pulls the knife from my hands, which on its own is very dangerous, and takes the fish over to his side and says, "Give me that. Let the experienced cutter do the job." Small clarification, this woman was a repeat customer and liked how clean my cuts were, and I was always glad to help her. I asked the kid what was that about, and he tells me that you didn't receive training from the manager, so you're not good enough at cutting salmon. You bet you the manager heard about that. The lady also called in a complaint about it. Story 6, I was 22 and at a new job. This old biddy who wasn't my boss came to me to say I was dressed inappropriately because I was dressed too professional. She talked down to and acted like a complete to all her staff. Within 4 years, I was managing her job plus another department, and she was demoted to my old job. Was truly grand. Story 7, when I was in basic training, the drill sergeant would appoint a couple of guys to be platoon guides or PGs. They're basically assistants in the unit meant to help ensure that everyone's bunks and lockers were squared away, etc. Once these 2 guys got picked, they went power crazy. I mean, you would have thought they were promoted to command sergeant major by the way they were acting. They lasted about a week before a full-scale mutiny by the platoon forced the drill sergeant to appoint new PGs. Story 8, Rob got promoted from barista to team lead at Costa Coffee, a difference of 30 pence extra, an hour back in 2006. And the next day, he abruptly asked us to call him sir. Story 9, when I was 11, I was appointed head student librarian of my primary school's library, and it went right to my head. I was tasked with training up and then testing the next year of student librarians over lunch breaks. I had to teach them the very simplified version of the Dewey Decimal System the library used and library etiquette for if other students wanted to check out a book over lunches. Very basic stuff. It went to my head in a very large way, and I was convinced no one else would do as good a job as I did. And the test I devised for the next year's librarians was unnecessarily harsh and difficult. I started including obscure facts and riddles with the questions to prove that no one was suited for the next year's head librarian role. One of the actual librarians had to step in and give my power-hungry 11-year-old self a talking to, and showed me a test she had put together herself that I had used from then on to stop all of the student trainees coming out with about 0-10 for my evil test. Edit spelling. Story 10, I used to have a job at a retail store. Employees who were good with customers and didn't up got a $1 raise and a red vest. Those who wore red vests were basically the assistant manager's assistant. One girl got the vest and went absolutely crazy with it. Due to previous disagreements, she started to use this newfound power to make my job. She'd make passive-aggressive attempts to impede my progress and add to my workload. Alright, several people have inquired for more specifics. I was a cart boy and was unfortunately stuck with a walkie-talkie, so my boss could get hold of my when a customer slipped on ice and was bleeding from the head. Nobody answered me. Typical. She'd call me inside constantly and chew me out over absolute nonsense. You're not allowed to converse with customers. You cannot clean garbages before insert time. Then there was that one time the batteries died on me, and she comes storming out to scream at me in the middle of the parking lot because I'm ignoring her. Just so you all know, this broad was 2 years older than me and just had a slightly higher salary and extra duties. She was in no way my superior. Story 11. It happened to me long ago when I worked at a Burger King. The door to the freezer was busted and you had to open it exact right away or it was going to fall off the hinges altogether. This only lasted one night, so the owner gave me the key to it, showed me the special way to open it, and told me to just let people in and out. I declared myself the key master and demanded people do things for me for the right to enter my frozen kingdom. After a few hours, they held me down and took away my key. Story 12. As someone with a September birthday, I was always young for my grade in school. There was this girl who was the grade below me, but a few months older than me, so she thought she could boss me around. She literally had been given no power other than her birth date. Story 13. When I was starting high school, my school hired someone new to be the new head of school security. He was he hates kids, and he had nothing better to do than harass students. He always thinks everyone is up to no good. He would search lockers without any probable cause, accuse students of being high with no evidence. He would stop students in the middle of the halls between classes and talks to them to the point where they're late for class, then write them up for being late for class. And he seems to ostracize black students more than any other group. Eventually, the school board fired him because of all the complaints from pissed-off students and parents. Story 14. I once worked at a retail store when I was 16. You have to have a manager in charge on the floor at all times. It doesn't actually have to be a manager, but it should be. When I had worked there long enough that they trusted me, I'd maybe have it if all the managers were on break for no longer than 15 minutes. If anything that required a manager came about, just call the break room, and they'd settle it. So you really had no power. One of my coworkers was the kind of girl whose parents never really told her no or made her work for anything. So she was a bit entitled, decent enough at doing the job itself, but took a while to get used to being told what to do by her boss, criticized when she did something wrong, etc. She had been working there for like 9 months or so, and somebody gave her the badge to cover a break. In the 15 minutes she had it, she apparently told like 5 people that they were banned for life, as well as telling one of the newer employees she didn't particularly care for that. He was 1 strike away from being covered for being like 3 minutes late coming back for break. Story 15. I was buying a 20 t-shirt and paying with my credit card. The clerk compared my signature to the signature on the back of my credit card and decided they didn't match. I laughed and asked if he was a handwriting expert. He made me show my ID as proof that I wasn't using my mom's card. I was 25. Story 16. The boss I had in my previous job, he owns a spa business but rents the building and believes that allows him to act whatever way he wants. He's been sued multiple times and always sees it as an attack on his business, when in actuality he's just a shitty guy. He's mean, disrespectful, and mentally unstable. Now, he has 5 different women suing him for harassment. He knows he most likely will lose, and with the way he treats his employees, he has no one who will testify for him and has been dropped by multiple lawyers. He'll probably lose his business license too. It's beautiful to watch someone like that fall. Story 17. People who claim ownership of specific Wikipedia articles, reverting any new info, and only allowing themselves to edit them based on their own views and opinions. Story 18. Back in middle school, a boy that was generally a little was given a shot at hall monitor for that week. He lasted about 3 days on the job, thinking he was invincible and didn't have to show respect to anyone or anything. Some of his antics: he confiscated Pokemon cards from other kids and used the good cards to bribe other kids into getting him thirds at lunch. And for extra time in the student-run computer room, ran into the girls' bathroom to peep over stalls, justifying it by claiming that there was a boa constrictor on the loose. Cried when some other boy yelled "Respect ma authorata," and then locked the kid out of the building. Beat the out of vending machine whenever a gay person passed him in the hall. The shitty kid would ask to see their hall passes and then say, "Oh wait, that's your gay card." Part of his job was to hang posters advertising school clubs. He instead printed off a photo of some kid's mom and put that on notice boards, bit a girl on the nose that called him Hitler so that she would learn not to disobey. Men peed in the sand pit the elementary kids used. Story 19. Used to work at a greyhound track. I walked the dogs, but you used to have a paddock steward who would check the right dogs were running, that they were wearing the right number coat, and make sure you went out on parade on time. The paddock steward we had was a young lad that used to work on the track, and oh my God, the power went straight to his head. I don't even know how. There was no power to be had. One example, we all had black t-shirts with the track logo and fleeces for when it was cold. He demanded that we all matched. Didn't matter if it was summer. If one person was cold, we all had to wear fleeces. He loved to boss you around. For no reason. We'd all been working in that section for years before he came along, and suddenly we were no longer allowed tea and coffee in our room. Joke's on him, though. He let the wrong dog run during a race. Try to blame me. I could also work as a paddock steward. They only hired him really as I refused to take on the job full-time. Story 20. When I first started working for my current employer, I asked a coworker if they thought it would be okay to wear earbuds while I was working. From that day on, she seemed to think she was my boss. Story 21. I'm sure I share this experience with a lot of you, but I had to deal with an absolute witch of a supervisor at my retail job. You know, the type short, angry, explosive, no sense of humor. Well, anyway, turns out she wasn't actually a supervisor, but just the person who was given the keys to lock up at the end of our shift. The cool, laid-back guy I rung up tills with was the real supervisor. Story 22. When you have a grown child going to Navy boot camp, there are several Facebook groups set up for parents to support one another based on the date your kid graduates. One of the mothers thought her kid walked on water. Everyone gets some kind of job in boot camp. Her kid got assigned to be a yeoman over the health needs of the unit. He got this assignment because he was one of the older recruits, a pretty common practice. If you listen to her, you would have thought that he got put in charge of the entirety of Recruit Training Command at Great Lakes. Because of this, she was the best Navy mom that ever mommed ever. She put herself in charge of okaying people's wardrobes and seating at boot camp graduation. She wanted us to all get together at the same restaurants afterwards. She even tried to book our hotel rooms for us, none of which I was inclined to acquiesce, to which meant she hated me. I did not wear red, white, or blue to the graduation. The kids in that unit have been in for quite some time now. Her kid is still a yeoman, which only means he's a grunt that fills out paperwork at a desk. She moved across country to live by him at his base. I feel for that kid. Story 23. In high school, we had a teacher during our morning class that would allow one student to run to the Tim Hortons across the street to grab everyone something. Every day, the same girl would go and come back acting she was rationing off meals to a bunch of hungry animals. Gimme my triple woman. Story 24. My girlfriend and I are avid PC gamers. Although, she doesn't know too much about computers, so when it comes to building and setting up a PC, I'm the one who does it all for her. A while ago, I was away for the week with my parents while my girlfriend was back home, and she messaged me asking if I thought she needed a graphics card upgrade. I decided she may as well, if she had the money, because her build was getting a bit old, and she wanted to play some more recent games. I told her to wait until I got back, so I could help her pick one out and get sorted out. The next day, I get a message from her saying that she's ordered a new graphics card. I ask her why she's done it without me, and she tells me that her brother had mentioned how he has this friend who is really good with computers, and that he could sort it out for her, so she didn't have to wait. Her brother is a trustworthy guy, so I wasn't bothered by that. It was his friend who was the problem. My girlfriend then explains to me that her brother's friend asked her what her budget was and basically just recommended her the best AMD GPU for that price. She thanked him for the advice and said she'd ask me, but apparently he was very pushy, acted very big-headed, and started to tell my girlfriend that she had to order this graphics card now because it was the best she was going to get. She got intimidated by him, and her brother just blindly agreed with the guy, so she ended up buying the card. A day or so later, the card turns up, and the guy comes over to my GFS house to fit it for her. Apparently, he spent a lot of time trying to fit it, only to tell my girlfriend that it wasn't working. What a surprise. She told him to not worry, and that I'd be back soon to fix it anyway. She just wanted him gone ASAP. He insisted that he give it another go and spent a while longer trying to get it to work before finally telling her that the problem was that her power supply wasn't good enough, i.e., the card he recommended required 2 PCI, but she only had 1. Once again, this guy starts telling my GF what she should buy, asks her how much she wants to spend on a power supply, and recommends the best Corsair supply for that money. She just wants her PC fixed at this point, so she goes along with it and orders it. The guy turns up to install the power supply, and would you believe it, there's another problem. He's ordered her a power supply that won't physically fit in the case. At this point, I'm not sure whether to laugh or cry, because this guy is clearly an idiot on a power trip, bossing my GF around and costing her money. My girlfriend then orders a new case recommended by me this time, which turns up just before I get home. I go over to my GFS house and put the PC together for her, and it works. She tells me that's the last time she's trusting that guy for help, and I agree. She sends him a thank you message, a what out of courtesy, and he replies with something along the lines of, looks like your computer was just so old that you needed several parts upgraded, haha. Maybe you should have just bought a new Alienware PC instead. They're so much better. no you're welcome, or anything. He just acted like it was all my girlfriend's fault. Story 25, head waitress. I was waiting tables at this one restaurant for about a year. One girl I worked with would tell everyone that she was head waitress. She decided it was up to her to tell everyone else when they were done with their shift, who could get cut when, etc. If someone finished their side work up to the manager standards, but not this chick's, she wouldn't moan for the rest of the shift about that person leaving without finishing their work, and she'd assure us that that person will be fired soon. One day, I got into a little bit of an argument with her. During said argument, she called me a lazy, accused me of always being late to my shifts, and as always, told me to not bother coming into work for my next shift because I'd definitely be fired as soon as she told the managers. So I come in for my next shift, and even though I was pretty sure she was bluffing, I asked the manager what her deal was anyway. Was my job actually in trouble? They said of course not, because she was basically just delusional. Like she'd been working there for a couple of years, almost longer than anyone else. This place had quick turnover, and just decided that meant she was head waitress. No one ever gave her that title or any sort of authority over anyone else. I was basically told that she had been told many times that she was not, in fact, above anyone else, but never listened, I guess. Story 26, delivered for Domino's years ago. The store manager I started with was fired and a new guy came in. His first words to me are that he runs his business like a boot camp. I took it as a metaphor and started my night. I come in at one point to this guy screaming over a young girl's shoulder, faster, faster. Get the cheese on faster, Gio, go, go. I was dumbfounded. He was fired after customers were calling to complain because they could hear him screaming. Story 27, our human resources director. We are consolidating offices, and she made herself in charge of it. And it has been a hilarious disaster one. Since we laid off around 50 people, we had a lot of furniture equipment laying around. Had to ship it all to our main office, I think 5 trucks worth of. She didn't realize it was that much stuff and had to pay someone to haul it away once it got shipped down after it was all thoroughly pilfered. 2. Decided we would do everything electronically on SharePoint. Threw away thousands of documents and important drawings after having someone scan them. Scanned drawings are huge size, making them impossible to open when talking with clients via phone. So we have to call them back after we get all of our stuff open. Luckily, we secretly save the drawings for our important customers. Also, the electronic versions have some weird problems where you can only print them in 9x11. Even if you use larger paper size, making them useless. 3. Try to renegotiate a new lease for our building. One of our coworkers who knew the owner got us a sweet deal set up. She decided she could do better. Pissed off owner. Now we have to change offices. For while changing offices, she keeps giving vague instructions like we're not going to bring everyone over, so only set up 20 offices rather than 25, stuff like that. Really great for worker productivity, right? 5. Cancel people's job interviews to hold stupid contents like ice cream sundae day, which consisted of a tub of vanilla ice cream and some spoons. The HR director needs to control this. Story 28, I work at a beach club, and during summer when it gets extremely hot, we have to refill an ice machine with more ice from an even stronger ice machine. This is done by runners bus boys. There's this runner in charge of bringing ice into the machine who would count how many cubes you get and determine whether you need more or less. Example, I come with a bottle of champagne, and I need ice. He looks at the size of the bottle, looks on whether this champagne is drunk with ice in or not, looks at how many glasses I have, therefore counting how many people will drink it, gets his little ice scoops, and literally gives you no more, no less than what he deems right and worthy. Maybe 27 cubes, 28 depending the size of the glass I bring too. Crazy guy. His excuse in the sorry running up and down to get more ice like a crazy meth addict. I choose how many you need. No exceptions. He does a brilliant job though. We have never ran out of ice again. I was 16. I worked in a small corner shop. A guy started working, and because he was 18, he could put through alcohol sales. Oh, how he loved that power. Story 29, I work at a summer camp of 4 to 7-year-olds after bathroom breaks to get them to line up to get back to the class. You do the camp clap, the rhythmic 5-clap thing. Once they all get silent, you say everyone line up behind. There's no method to how I pick a kid. It's whoever's name pops into my head or whoever is closest to me when I do the clap. Whatever kid I pick sprints like the dickens to stand before me, like face to close, to make sure no one else takes his or her spot as the line leader. It's a 60-second walk back to the classroom, but the little guy screams the whole time at people to stay in line. I honestly couldn't care less how they're walking, but I bust a gut hearing a little nugget scream about how Husha was the line leader and no one could pass him or oh. And don't forget the shing and corralling, both of which aren't successful ever. Story 30, in junior soccer in Australia. Coaches and team managers have to wear armbands, indicating who they are. The authority that they assume as a result is astounding, and as one dad quietly said to me, give a guy an armband. And the next thing he is invading Poland. Story 31. In my place of work, there is an extensive hierarchy, with 8 possible levels in each establishment, all with their own amount of staff. I've witnessed several people turn into an incredibly massive simply from going from the bottom sales assistant to supervisor. It's sad really because this person is the in-between of staff to management, and once there they lose all respect of the staff. This particular woman was also the type to get pregnant to keep her boyfriend from moving home after university. So there you have it. Story 32. Oh, hey, race of fun and recent one. So I was working for this local delivery company because, the pay is good, so I didn't mind that we didn't have W-2S, and we're technically operating illegally because it was more money in a week than 40 hours of minimum wage would do. The whole outfit was a massive joke. They had their computer equipment seized last year, and because the whole outfit had the organizational capacity of a pit filled with roadkill, they had decided to go back to doing things on paper instead of buying a cheap pair of laptops. This meant that every order was written down, then a picture taken of via cell phone, and then rewritten down in the branch office. I was making some inroads with my own personal laptop to speed things up. Funny how Excel makes spreadsheets easier than doing it by hand. But I was still working 12-hour days like everyone else. Problem is, 12-hour days are pretty rough when you do 5 or 6 of them in a row, which was common, so I would, on occasion, be a few minutes late so I could sleep a little longer and pick up breakfast on the way to the office. Red Shack. I had no mind with Big Boss, but Mini Boss was a joke. As soon as I got into the office, I took over hiring, firing, scheduling, and supply procurement, which gave Mini Boss all to do besides taking extra long smoke breaks. Well, me being a few minutes late to the 12 and sometimes 13-hour shifts was apparently too much for Mini Boss, because he started sending me accusation text messages an hour before work about how it's so easy to get in on time. Despite my medical condition, I finally responded back one day with "Can you not with me before work?" and he lost it. The moment I got in, he was full tilt. "You can't talk to me like that. I'm the boss, and this is a real business, and you have to do what I say." I had to stifle myself to not laugh in his face. He repeated the idea that he was the boss and that it was a real business several times, and I just pushed back by asking him what there was to do at 945 when business doesn't actually start until 1010. He had no good answer, just that this is a real business, etc., etc. I don't believe in rules without reason, so it was quite a stalemate. So I was sent home, and the coward fired me by text message. That's fine. I had a job waiting for me and was scheduled to work by the end of the day, and I handily deleted all of the templates, forms, and procedures we'd been using to optimize the business, since it was, of course, on my computer. He just ensured that hell won't have any days off until he hires someone else, which I suspect will be a long while. A note to all the yuppies out there: just because you keep saying something doesn't make it true. Story 33. I was working part-time at Long John Silver's in college. Small college town in the middle of nowhere in northern Missouri. We got one of those secret shoppers hired by the local management of the chain to come in and review us. It was busy, dinner rush. This comes in as creepy, scowling, and has a ridiculous comb-over and creeper mustache. He's rude to the other customers in line and annoyed with the noise. He comes up and orders the smallest serving of fried shrimp we had, literally the cheapest fried thing on the menu. He's rude, acts rushed, talks over me, and is impatient. I just try to move him along so I could continue helping the line of customers still coming in. He sits down, ignores his shrimp, and pulls out a clipboard. Our head manager was working. It wasn't scheduled. He just came in to help with the rush. He gets pulled over by the secret shopper who wants to talk about just why he was scoring us poorly. Not just that, but just how grateful we should be that he wasn't including that I forgot to say thank you 5 times to each customer, as was the new asinine policy they were trying to push on us, and how the place was so filthy because he decided to sit down at the only empty booth right after someone else had left. He spent 2 hours chewing out our manager in the middle of a rush in the most condescending way possible about the most petty things. His job is to visit fast food places in a few small towns surrounded by farmland and go over a checklist to make sure things are in order. He's not reviewing real restaurants for a professional magazine. Yet here, he was trying to lord this imaginary power over 2 college students, a DJ from Kansas City on parole, a pregnant woman, a redneck professional pool player, and our manager who was only sent over because our last manager was mishandling the store's money. I swear all my stories from living in that town sound like an episode of a show like Community when I look back. This guy, though, had the most insignificant imaginary power no one took seriously, but it went to his head nonetheless. Story 34. I work at a hardware store as a cashier. I started out pushing carts, and so did this other guy. I moved up to a cashier. He moved up to lumber. I was off register helping him one day. He asked if I could do something. I said no, being the smartass I am. His response in a department: Am above you, I'll walk my off. Story 35, the on-site manager of an apartment complex. At the most recent complex I lived in, my on-site manager was a middle-aged woman who basically couldn't afford the full rent because she was underemployed and took her job far too seriously. She came to check on me sometimes because she noticed there was a suspicious person, that is, my big, goofy ginger boyfriend, picking me up for a date outside my apartment. She came to check on my smoke alarms regularly at 7 a.m. and would peek around my apartment. When I asked her to stop or to provide notice before she came in, she threatened that using the laundry room was a privilege that she could revoke for any reason. When I stopped answering the door for her early morning chats, she had my car towed from my assigned carport. Story 36, weird, creepy abuse trigger warning. When I was around 8 years old, my school introduced this concept, which would have a couple of kids a few years older than us come in and effectively pretend to be babysitters for a short lesson. The actual teachers got a break, and they were just there to make sure we didn't get too rowdy. Not that they had to teach us or anything. They were supposed to mentor us or whatever, like talk to us about life and whatnot. So we had this girl come in and be a reminder she was around 14 and we were 8. I should probably stress that our school had a very lax view on corporal punishment. It only became illegal at a central level to beat up kids in a school in the country, in referring to well after this incident. And that power-hungry monster kid took the level of authority given her sin class. Make sure the kids don't scream too much or run around. Maybe play a game with them if you want, or just ignore them. Help them with problems if they approach you, and ran with it. She laid down a list of rules we had to follow, which included absolute silence at all times, like we couldn't talk to our friend without getting hit or humiliated. We had to beg and plead to use the bathroom. And she wouldn't let us. She used to enjoy seeing little kids crying and begging, and once a kid actually peed in class. She beat that boy with a thick wooden ruler on the legs. I got hit too, same ruler on my palms, for not raising my hand quick enough when she asked us a question. Sometimes she was supposed to mind us when we were supposed to change in a gym uniform, where she was just supposed to us all to the bathrooms. Girls' and boys' bathrooms were next door to each other and wait outside, but she made us change inside the classroom instead. Boys and girls mixed. She used to time us too. We got 5 minutes, and if we took any longer, she'd hit us and would have to spend the rest of the time in whatever state of undress we were in. One girl didn't manage to get her shorts on, so she whacked her with that ruler on her, but while she was in her gym t-shirt and underwear, it made her spend the rest of the time in that state of undress. We tried raising this with a teacher, and she gave like 0. The teachers in that school saw nothing wrong with hitting kids, and they do it all the time. Luckily, we managed to bring it to the notice of some other teacher who was a really nice woman. She didn't believe us at first, but we asked her to come to the class randomly at one of those times, and she caught that girl doing one of her favorite humiliate little kids activity that I honestly don't want to repeat, and she lost her. That girl got caned pretty badly, and she lost her mentoring position, but nothing else happened to her. We just stayed out of her way. I know this sounds super unbelievable, but it's honestly a little cathartic to write all this out. You may not believe me, but I saw this post and was instantly reminded of her smug face. I've never forgotten it. She used to genuinely enjoy it, hitting us and humiliating us. I never told my parents, even though I should have. It's many years ago now, and it feels good to tell someone. Story 37, walk into any government council building, any town up and down the country. Point at someone, anyone at random on the 2nd or 3rd floor. Those people, seriously. Story 38, my husband's career is growing rather quickly. When we got together, we made about the same amount of money. We've been together 6 years, and he now makes over double what I make. You'd think this would be a good thing, but it's not. He's gotten so full of himself. He pays for a lot of stuff now, but then holds it against me and is constantly berating me for not working hard enough. It's making me hate him. His constant criticism makes me not want to do anything at all. Story 39, my roommate and I were at the bar. Through a mutual friend, we end up in the VIP section, which is above the dance floor. Took us being up there for less than 5 minutes before he starts yelling down toward the dance floor about the peasants.